In this video, I'm going to go through my documentation on the Linux setup with XMRig and all the automatic monitoring software. So we have a brand new miner here, and first thing we're going to do is get it so we can do remote access. First I have to use the lap dock here, and once the remote access is up and Linux is installed, then it's much easier to set up on my Windows machine where I can just cut and paste. I don't have to type anything. So first thing on my instructions is we're going to disable secure boot. So we have to go to setup, and we're going to go to security, go to secure boot, and we're going to disable that. Save and exit. I've already created a USB with Debian, so I'm going to skip doing that. There's plenty of videos, but I do have instructions on that. So we're going to go ahead and just reboot. And we'll start installing Debian first. So I do not want the graphical install because everything is going to be command line. So we're going to choose plain install. English, United States, English. Now we're going to select for our Wi-Fi, that's the dongle there. And then I'm selecting my network. And we want that one. Do my paraphrase. Host name, this is going to be Miner 7. No space. Domain name, we're going to leave that blank. Root password, now I use the same password for the root and also for the user, which will be Nathan is the user. And of course I'm not going to show the password on this video. Full name for the user, I'm going to use Nathan. And then the username, notice it goes to lowercase, that's fine. And then I use the same password. Now we'll set up our time zone. Now here, we're going to do use entire disk. And then we have a 500 gigabyte installed. And all these choices are on the instructions. All files in one partition. Then go yes. Formatting the hard drive. no proxy. Not going to participate in survey. Now here we do not want the graphic interface because we don't need it. So we're going to uncheck desktop, uncheck genome. Then we want to check SSH server. That's going to allow us to remote in, but local only because there's no port to the internet. And then continue. Installation complete. One thing about Linux, it's super fast compared to Windows and way less hassle. I've been mining with Windows for years, but it's a headache with all the updates and the antivirus going berserk. Linux has been so much nicer. So let's go ahead and remove our USB. Let's reboot. Let's let it finish installing. There we go. So next I want to update my BIOS. And I already made the USB to update the BIOS. The way this works, it has to boot up on the USB. To do it, I have the instructions. I don't really want to show it now. But basically you're just copying the files for this particular motherboard, but it doesn't have the boot files, so you're copying the boot files from another motherboard and you're combining them together. And there's videos on it. I include a useful link, but I've already made the USB, so I'm just going to plug that in, and I'm just going to do a reboot with the power button here. And I'm going to press F7 because I want to boot from that USB. And then here, I'm going to choose the UDisk partition 1. I'm going to boot from that. And then after a few seconds, it's going to take me to a command prompt. And then I'm going to choose the USB, which is FS1. So I'm going to type FS1 colon. And then the flash utility, which is capital E F I, and then capital F flash dot NSH. Let that run, and that'll update my BIOS on the motherboard. Because this Minis forum, they're not that friendly on their BIOS update, and they wipe all your settings. So I want to update my BIOS before I do all my settings, because it takes like 10 minutes to do all the settings. And the settings will take this miner from 100 watts down to 71 watts. And more importantly is the temperature would go about 50 degrees C on the CPU. And that's the key to making this thing last for years. You want to run that CPU as cool as possible, but not by running huge fans, by basically lowering your voltage to the CPU. And what I like is that since this is a laptop CPU, it optimizes itself to set its low voltages. On the previous versions, which is here, my previous miner, that's 4 of them, that's the 3950s, I have to manually set the voltages on the CPU, and I don't get 71 watts, I get 220 watts. So with this laptop CPU, the new generation, I'm 3 times less electricity. It's a big deal. I disconnected the dongle. And let's go ahead and get secure boot off. So go to security, secure boot. We're going to disable that. And I guess we can confirm that we have the latest 1.12. Yep. Now let's get back into Debian. And let's keep going down the list here. We're on Debian setup number 1 on the instructions. Now we're going to get remote console working and life will be much easier. So I need to log in first. That's going to be Nathan. And then password. Now I'm logged into Miner 7 and I'm just going to go down and I have to copy these commands one after the next here. SU space minus. Password again. APT update. APT install. Sudo open SSH server /y. systemctl enable now SSH user mod a capital G sudo, then my username Nathan, and then reboot. And now I can access from a Windows machine, and I'm done with the lap dock. Now I just finished the Debian install. I updated the BIOS. Let's find where the miner is. So I'm at my router. I'm going to see my attached devices. And the DHCP would give it basically a random address. This is miner number 8. So I think it's at number 43 here. So let's SSH into that. So we're going to go to PowerShell. So now I want to try to remote in to the miner. And this is going to be at address 43. Let's go to PowerShell. Change that to a 43. Yes, do my password. And I'm in to miner 8. So let's continue on our instructions. So we're going to set up static IP. So first we want to get our adapter name. So we're going to do IP link. And this is what we need here. This is our wireless adapter name. So I want to Control C, copy that. And now here, we're going to update this file, which is interfaces. So that's going to be under Debian Personal Interfaces. So I want to just cut and paste, change the adapter, change the address, and then you're going to use your Wi-Fi ID and your Wi-Fi password, and basically just copy and paste this entire section using the nano editor, and then you're going to save it. I'm not going to show you because I don't want to show my private information, but I'm going to update all this and then save it. Now I edited all my personal information. I saved it. Now let's run these commands. We'll just copy and paste each one at a time here. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. Let's do a reboot. Control C. Reboot the miner. Go back to my router, check my addresses. And sure enough, the iPhone got kicked off of 38. And now I have a fixed IP for my miner. Now I want to rename the miner I'm working on, miner number 8. Change it to miner number 8. Now let's log into miner number 8. So that's going to be 38. And we're in. Next, we want to verify the DNS works. So let's go ping google.com, and we're getting a good ping. Control C to end, If it didn't work, you want to run this command. Now, let's update the video driver. So we're on the AMD, the Minis forum. So we're going to do this command here. Control C, Control V. Yes. Driver's updated. Now, if you were going to have a display connected, I have some commands here. Keep the display on. So next, let's config XMRig. So again, you're going to use the personal, the Debian personal, and you're going to copy it into this miner.env. We'll go here to Debian personal, and you want to edit this file. So here is your parameters for the Watchdog, your minimum rates, how bright you want the LED to be. This is some local passwords. I don't really care. People know them. You can leave those passwords, but it's just to allow access into XMRig local only. Now here is the command that starts XMRig. And you can get this command from any of the mining pools, but make sure you have the HTTP in there because the Watchdog uses this to access the hash rate. And here's where you want to put your Monero address. Just copy the whole address right into there. And then you can copy this entire section in between here and here. And then you're going to put it into miner.env. So I'm going to do that now. But I'm going to use my information. Next, you want to run this command. Control C, Control V. Next, I want to set up my SMTP email account. So SMTP is the older email standard, but it's free and it doesn't require two-factor verification. So you have to enable it and you set a special app password. So I have the instructions right here for Google, but for all the main emails, you can easily find out how to set up an SMTP account because it's free if you already have the email, and you can send unlimited emails to yourself. First, we're going to install the email utility here. Next, we want to edit and put the personal information. And so that'll be, we're going to go to the editor with this command, and then you want to edit this file. You can put in your just a name for the account, and then the website, also the port. There'll be recommended SMTP settings for particular. And also you're going to have your username and password. And then you're going to save it, Control O, enter, Control X. And then we want to run this command next. And then we want to put in the actual script. So we're going to edit this. and I've already placed it in there. So I'm going to Control X out of it. And you want to run this command here. And then you can send yourself a test email. So we'll copy this. And so it says sending email, email sent from Miner 8. And then you just go to your email program and you can see your email, which is right here. Just send a test email. So we have our notifications working. Next, let's install XMRig. So we need to do these commands one at a time. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C. Wait for this to finish. Control V. Control C. Control V. Let's build XMRig. You just have to do this once. Once you've done it, the script will automatically do your future updates. Do our commands one at a time. Let's go through one at a time here. All right, that's it for setup number 1. And let's see if our rig is running. Go to the common commands. Let's show the log here. And we're running. We have our 32 threads, huge pages, and we'll get a hash rate shortly. Hash rate's going to be fast because we're going to be running really hot right now because I haven't optimized. You want to optimize your voltages last because that's where you're going to get the silicon lottery, where you can have an unstable machine if the voltage is too low. So let's go on to the next one. Let's continue. Now we're on setup number 2. So we're going to install sensors, which is going to allow us to check our temperature and our watts. Let me get out of that. Just copy all these commands. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, and then capital Y, E, S. Now let's go ahead and hit sensors. And so right now we're running pretty hot, 67 degrees C. And the wattage is not accurate for this motherboard unless you're watt limiting, because I know right now I'm running about 70 watts. Actually, I'm running about 100 watts. And because I'm cooking hot, I'm at 67 degrees on a brand new motherboard. So I'm just verifying that sensors works. Now here's going to be a script to check the status. This is what the Watchdog will use. Control C. Let's copy that whole script and do shift and then down arrow. This is local access only, and you can get the status, which is hash rate, temperature, and watts. Control C, Control V, enter. Control O, enter. Control X. Run this command. Control V. Now here's what's going to allow miner status to run as a server, so it can be pinged. Let's paste the script into here. It's a short script. Control C, Control V, Control O, enter, Control X. Got to run all these commands. Control C, Control V, 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 let's go ahead and create this file. Control C, let's copy this script. Control C, Control V, Control O, enter, Control X. Run these commands. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, and let's go ahead and do a reboot. Control C, Control V. Linux does boot up fast. Takes about a minute. Just remote back into the miner. So let's test the script. So we're going to test it on the same machine. Control V. So we got 18 hash, 62, we're running pretty hot. And our watts 32, that's not accurate, but it is working. And then here's some troubleshooting stuff. And then you can also access it on any other computer on the network. You're using this password, and then you have to specify the IP address. The first time you use it on a Windows machine, you do have to install guess it's nap or something. All right, so let's get our auto update working. This will auto update XMRig. So let's load this script. Control V. Let's grab the whole script. I tried to make these scripts portable so they work on different machines. This is a big script. Control C, Control V, enter, Control O, enter, Control X. Run the rest of the commands. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, and then we're going to choose number 1. And then we're going to add this to the bottom. This is going to run it every Saturday night. Do an auto update. So mouse doesn't work in this. You just got to use your arrow key. Control V, Control O, enter, Control X. And then we can test it manually now. Control C, Control V. So it's showing that XMRig is already up to date. It's going to do a system update for Linux. And now it's going to send an email on the status and also with the logs. It has a time delay so that the emails are sequential with the miner number. So miner number 8, it's 8 times 30-second delay, which is why it's 240 seconds. That way, at quick glance at the emails can show all the miners. Now it's sending the email. And the script finished. Let's take a look at the email here. So the email is gonna, in the title, gonna have the hash rate. It's gonna show the motherboard, the firmware on the motherboard. And then we're gonna see some logs here. So we're gonna see XMRig, how it's doing. So that works good. We finished setup number 2. Now let's go to Debian setup number 3. And this one is going to have the LED function. So first we can verify that the LED is connected. Do this command here. Let's log back in. And looks like we have an LED. There's the name of it. And then you can also turn it on if you want with just either one of these commands here. So let's set up a system stability log. And this is helpful when you're getting peak performance. It'll log stuff like CPU crashing. Just run each one of these commands. Now we haven't done undervoltage yet, so there's no errors. Undervoltage is going to show up under MCE errors. Now let's go ahead and start. Let's get the miner watchdog running. So we're going to edit with this file. I'm going to copy the entire script. Control C, Control V, enter, Control O, enter, Control X. Make it executable. And we can test it manually. And we don't need to see all this. Control C. This is more for debugging. Run that manually. Let's set it to run automatically. So we're going to create this script. Control C, Control V, copy everything. Control C, Control V, Control O, enter, Control X. Run each one of these. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, and we'll reboot later. So we're done with setup number 3. Let's do Debian setup number 4. So this one's basically just going to cut our logs to 1 month long. There's no need of having a 5-year long log with millions of entries. Control C, Control V, and then we're just going to copy all this into there. It's basically just going to limit all of the logs to 1 month. Control C, Control V, Control O, enter, Control X. Next, I'm going to Control C. So we're going to replace everything. So I'm going to do Control K to delete everything. Control C, Control V, Control O, enter, Control X. Control C, Control V. And here would be, if you were doing this later, you would delete some of your older logs. So let's go ahead and reboot. And we're done setting up the software in the miner. Now we want to do is the optimized BIOS tuning, which is going to make our CPU run a lot cooler. And it's going to take our hash rate from 18,000 to 15,000, but it's going to make up for it in longevity of the motherboard. If you want to run this thing for 10 years, you got to run it cool. So let's check our miner status over the local internet. So we're going to copy this command, and this is on setup number 2. And just to make sure we got our right IP address. So we're running 18,000, we're running pretty hot, and then the watts 34, which is not correct. So now we have to go back to the lap dock, and we're going to do the BIOS settings.